everyone, this is Marco and welcome back to my channel. In the last episode, I showed you how I made the molds of my Rubbersaur's Tyrannosaurus Rex. In this episode, I will show you how I cast a figure. So what you'll be seeing in this video and the next ones is how I make every single Rubbersaur figure that you or my other clients buy on my Etsy store. So anyway, let's get to it. What you see right now is the body mold. All you have to do is just tape the parts together. You can see here, this is the pore hole and these are the bleeder holes, which is what helps the air escape from the mold actually. These are vital and help tremendously well to get rid of air bubbles from the cast. So this is what I'll be using right now. Obviously, I need the molds, I need some rubber gloves, some plastic cups, some stirring sticks or tongue depressors. This is the pigment, which is a resin compatible pigment that I pre-mixed, and the rubber itself. I'm using this Zencast PX60 medium rubber, which is comprised of two parts. I'm pouring part A into one cup, and then I am pouring part B into the other cup in the same amount, in the same quantity. Then once that's poured, all you have to do is just mix them together. That is what activates the curing process. Also, I do not need any kind of mold release agent because this rubber does not stick to silicone. While mixing the parts together, I grab some pigment from my pigment jar, which I pre-mixed with polyurethane compatible pigment, and mix it in thoroughly with the rubber. It needs to be compatible because if we use any other kind of, colors like acrylic paint or whatever, it will interfere with the curing. So what we need is pigment that is compatible in the sense that it's inert, which means it's chemically neutral, which will not interfere with the curing. Oh, by the way, by curing, I mean the rubber actually setting. The two parts of the rubber chemically reacting and becoming one solid material. I should also explain probably what pigment actually does. If you don't know, pigment is what gives the color to the cast. If I was to mix this rubber without any pigment, it would be kind of see-through and a bit yellowy and not very nice. And it speeds up the painting process too. If there's already a base color, it is quicker to paint. And also, if the paint scratches away, there is a color underneath that matches the rest. I used to hate it as a kid when I was playing with my dinosaur toys, like rubbing the muzzle on the ground or whatever, or against other figures, and the color would just rub off, and there was this kind of whitish color underneath that didn't match the rest of the figure. That was really annoying, so this helps prevent that. So while pouring this mix, you will notice that material will start coming out of the bleeder holes. And that is great news because it means that the rubber has reached every single nook and cranny of the mold. I'm using these little plastiline or plasticine balls or bits to cover the bleeder holes to prevent the rubber to completely come out of it and making a mess all over the place. By closing those bleeder holes, it encourages the rest of the rubber to go and fill in the rest of the mold. And that's pretty much one side complete. All I have to do is just repeat the same process for the other half of the body. I usually let it set during the night. So this is both halves of the body cast. We'll be coming back to these casts later. In the meantime, I can start casting the rest of the dinosaur. So for these next casts, I'll be using hard flexible rubber, which is the same as medium but a bit tougher, which is perfect for making smaller parts like the head, the arms, the tongue, and some parts of the articulation in the legs. As you can see, I have already cast them. It's just a case of pouring the mix into the pore holes of the molds. But in this case, I have used different colored pigments to color different parts of the body. For example, the head and the arms have the same brown pigment as the body. The teeth are off-white and the tongue is pink. I decided to kind of skip showing you the pouring segment of this because it is exactly the same as earlier, but without covering the bleeder holes. I'll show you the process of how I cast the legs, which is a block mold, which is the same as the other parts I showed you earlier. You see here, I did cut the silicone to be able to extract the cast from the mold, which means that we have to tape it together when we want to cast a new one. In this case, I will be casting the legs and other parts of the articulation of the figure with fast cast resin, which is basically liquid plastic. It's much harder. It's sometimes a bit more brittle, like if it falls from a height, it could shatter. But it's quite tough nonetheless, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. This is the exact same material I used to make the exterior of the mold of the body. So again, this is a two-part mix. We have to repeat the exact same thing as earlier, pouring one part into one cup, the other part into the other cup, then adding pigment. This time I'm adding a lot more pigment because fast cast, when it cures, it goes white. So by adding more pigment, it will tone down the whiteness and match the color of the rest of the dinosaur. This time we are mixing this fast cast by weight, so scales come in handy instead of just relying, on your eyes and on your senses. I should mention something really important. You need a mask, or a respirator is much better actually, because these materials are toxic. You do not want these materials to get in contact with your body in any shape or form, because you might get a really serious allergic reaction. It's not so much about the smell, but the fumes are really bad for your lungs. So please wear some protection when handling these materials. I'm using the same brown pigment in the legs. I'm using a little bit of a red pigment for the mouth part. Not too much, because obviously the fast cast will cure white. By adding a tiny bit of red, it will go pink. As by the name, fast cast takes quite fast to cure, usually about 20 minutes to completely become solid. Nonetheless, I demolded every single part the next day. If you tend to take casts out of the mold too early, especially with the rubber, they tend to tear or break. So I usually leave quite a while before I take them out. One thing that people don't seem to realize is that once a cast is ready, it needs a lot of cleaning because of all the pore holes, the bleeder holes, and the seam lines. Also, every cast isn't perfect, which means that no matter how hard you try, air bubbles always get stuck into the materials, which is a pain in the butt. So I have to go and manually fill up every single air bubble I see. This doesn't happen as often with injection molding. Injection molding is what really big companies like Mattel or, Hasbro or even Nanmu and all of those, Papo, they all use injection molding. Basically, the molds are made of steel, I believe, or some sort of metal, and a boiling hot melted rubber or plastic is injected into the mold, which means there's far less chances of getting air bubbles trapped. The method I'm using is a pouring method, which is the most readily available and easier to access for us sculptors or artists or whatever. If you want to do injection molding, you have to be working in a factory or be in contact with someone that owns a toy manufacturing company. So what you're seeing in the video right now is just me going over each and every cast and refining the parts, cutting away any imperfection or any bleeder hole or pore hole that I can see, and filling in every single air bubble that I encounter. Again, it's never just a case of molding, pouring a cast, taking it out and assembling it. I wish it was that easy, but unfortunately this is what takes time, which is why these figures are more expensive than toy counterparts. Plus, I'm just one guy in my living room making all of this. Let me know if you want a studio tour, because that would be funny. So once all the head parts have been cleaned up, I can then glue all the parts together. As you can see, I am gluing the teeth into the mouth parts and then the mouth parts into the head and the bottom jaw. Once all these bits are glued down, I take this metal hinge that I bought, scrape it so it's got a rough surface for the glue to actually adhere properly to, and then glue the heck out of it onto the head. That's pretty much it. Enjoy this time lapse of me cleaning up all the casts and putting them together and assembling, and I'll see you later, further on in the video. One thing I forgot to mention is the sound box, the voice box inside the dinosaur. I buy these on Amazon and they're really cool because they're quite easy to use, and this is how it works. It's really cool, isn't it? It's got two modes, a recording mode and a play mode. Earlier I set it to recording mode, so I would play any kind of sound and then switch it to play mode and it would just play the sound that I recorded. Here I'm cleaning the seams of the body cast. Once it's all cleaned up, then I can glue the halves together with a special kind of superglue, which is a rubber infused sunacrylate superglue, which means that it's flexible. In the other versions of my rubber saws, I used to use straight up normal superglue, which would make cracking sounds when bending the figure. It wouldn't tear, it would still keep the halves glued together, but it would make this really kind of intimidating cracking sound, which is fixed now. These newer ones should not do that anymore. I'm using this 3mm thick aluminium armature wire to create the bendy tail. I'm also adding this wadding to make the inside of the tail soft. And once that's glued in place, then I can close the whole figure and assemble it, finally. This whole casting and assembling procedure, again, it's a lot longer than people think it is. It's a lot longer than what I wanted to be, but unfortunately, that's just how it is. Though I really hope you appreciate all the kind of time I'm spending and putting into this project. It is a passion project that I love. Obviously, there is a downside to everything, and time is definitely something that I would need more of to complete every figure. I kind of wish I could hire people to help me, but unfortunately I can't do that. One, because of funds, but in theory I could get help with that through Kickstarter if you guys are interested. Let me know in the comment section down below. But unfortunately I can't get help now because of this whole COVID situation. If I had people coming around helping me out casting, yeah, that would not be very safe at all. So it's just me, and please be aware that it takes time to make these. If you want to get one, and I can understand the frustration because none are in stock at the moment, but you know why, it just takes It just takes a long time to make. I'm sorry. So my plan is to make about 3 to 5 maybe every month. So everyone that wants one can have the chance to get one. Also, I'll warn you that I will need a break at some point. So I think you should know that. But I will get back to make them as soon as I can. Anyway, in the next video, I will be showing you how I paint these rubber dinosaurs. I think the painting stage is the last video of this project, so by the time I release that video, I hope I have made some rubber Rexes that I can sell on my Etsy store. So please stay tuned and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye. Hey, Sick merch is available on Redbubble. We have t-shirts, mugs, water bottles, and other cool stuff, but that's not all. On my Etsy store, you can find my rubber saws as well as signed prints. So, what are you waiting for? Just go and click the links in the description. I would like to give a massive thank you to all of my Patreons. Seriously guys, your support really does mean the world to me, as it helps me do what I love for you. You help me buy materials, and most of all, you give me a helping hand with improving the quality of the content of my videos. Even if it's just a small donation, every little helps. If you like my videos, please press the like button. And you could consider subscribing. It's free. Oh, and don't forget to press the notification bell button, because you don't want to miss any of my new stuff, right? I'm gonna say bye now, because when you gotta go, you gotta go. I will see you in the next one.